Hello, welcome back to Classic Comics, everyone. I just like to do this live stream where I'm going to cover some of the details of the new Dawn of the DCU uh, relaunch that's coming to DC Comics beginning of next year. Part of the stream, I'm also going to talk about DC Studios' plans for their main characters going forward. And then there's maybe a couple of other things I'll get to too, depending on how long I run here. I figure this will be somewhere between 30 minutes to an hour, something like that. So let me go ahead and bring up a couple of web pages here. I'm going to share my screen. This will take just a moment. Okay, here we go. So DC reveals Dawn of the DCU 2023 timeline and a name change. Now, in this article, and this is on Games Radar, uh, they have this image that shows a sort of a timeline of what's going to be happening going forward. So they're going to be starting this relaunch, this Dawn of the DCU thing, or Dawn of DC, is that what they've already changed the name to it? So, but it's going to start with this big crossover event called Lazarus Planet. Now, apparently, this is going to be kind of spinning out of events that are taking place in this Batman versus Robin miniseries that's going on. Basically, the Lazarus Pit, that's magic pit that allowed Ra's al Ghul to be resurrected and other people to be resurrected. The chemicals from that pit apparently originate from this volcano on a particular island. And this volcano is going to erupt, and that's going to spew a bunch of these magic chemicals out into the atmosphere. And apparently, it's going to cause a lot of people to change, like their powers are going to change or they're going to get mutated in different ways. And as we see here, uh, these logos here sort of show a timeline of the new series that are going to be debuting. So they're going to be launching new Superman's or relaunching Superman series with Action Comics and Superman. And then that's going to be followed by a new Doom Patrol series. And then after that, new Green Lantern books and a Green Arrow book. And then, surprise, they're doing more Batman books. Surprise, surprise. And a Shazam book. And also, this looks like Hawkman symbol. So I guess there's going to be a new Hawkman series as well. But let's just go ahead and get into the details of this article. DC is finally lifting the veil on the Dawn of the DCU, or what's now being referred to as Dawn of DC. And it appears that Brainiac might be underneath it. What the publisher is calling a year-long publishing initiative and line-wide multi-event narrative designed to be an easy entry point for lifelong and brand new readers. The previously announced initiative spins out of December's Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths and will involve 20 new titles and at least two other major events after Lazarus Planet. So the speculation that it's Brainiac seems to come from these kind of mechanical looking tentacles you see here, which are purple, and that's one of Brainiac's colors. So I think that's where the idea that this is going to have Brainiac at the root of it comes from. But they say here, this is a great, it's designed to be an easy entry point for lifelong and brand new readers. So you're relaunching or rebranding your books across the entire line, and you're going to immediately start a company-wide crossover event that's going to last for a year. How is that a good entry point or jumping on point for a new reader? It sounds to me like that's going to be as confusing as hell for new readers. I mean, when are they going to yeah, how are they going to get up to speed on everything? Because immediately once this story begins, due to the Lazarus chemicals covering the earth, characters are going to start changing. They're going to get different powers. They're going to be altered in various ways. It seems to me that's just going to confuse people. I don't see how that's a good jumping on point for new readers, but it's DC doesn't consult me. Now, so Dawn of DC will celebrate classic characters also while embracing the next generation of superheroes and shine the spotlight on a number of fan favorite heroes and villains that haven't been front and center for some time. The publisher is also promising bold new directions for Superman, Batman, Nightwing, Harley Quinn, and Poison Ivy. Dawn of DC kicks off in January with the previously announced revamp of the Superman titles that begins in Action Comics 1051 and then continues in new titles such as Unstoppable Doom Patrol, Superboy, The Man of Tomorrow, Green Lantern Hal Jordan and Green Lantern John Stewart, Green Arrow, Batman Brave and the Bold. So they're bringing back Brave and the Bold. That's kind of cool. Cyborg's getting a book. Shazam's getting a book. The Penguin is getting a book. I'll talk about that later, but I don't get that one. And then a book called Steelworks, which is going to feature John Henry Irons, aka Steel. But I think the main character, from what I can tell, is really going to be his daughter, Natasha Steele, and he's going to kind of be taking a back seat. So first off, the purple mechanical tentacles that serve as the narrative through line of the image are not identified, but look a lot like Brainiac technology. And since they originate at the blacked out far right of the piece, the message seems to be that the Superman villain will have his hand in machinations throughout the year, culminating in a year-end event. Also of note is DC hinting at a mid-year event in between the previously announced Lazarus Planet and the Brainiac-driven event at year end. DC is giving the words night and the first letter of the second word, which is T, which you can see here. Night something, and this will take place, I guess, somewhere around mid-year. When you see the name Night or word Night, that typically implies that Batman is going to be involved, since he's the Dark Knight. So, surprise, surprise, they're doing a Batman event. Who would have guessed? Otherwise, the image seemingly gives us one other clue not addressed directly by DC in its announcement of new titles. The Hawk symbol worn by Hawkgirl and Hawkman, suggesting a new title of some kind involving those characters towards the middle of the year. After the near multiverse ending events in Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths and DC Universe Lazarus Planet, the DC Universe will be heading toward the light, says DC publisher and Chief Creative Officer Jim Lee in the announcement. With brand new series and story arcs from some of the top creative members in comics, Dawn of DC is one of our most ambitious events ever and is a chance for us to tell bigger and bolder stories across our line. And they do give this image of the Doom Patrol here. Let's see if I can bring that up. Well, not, but you can kind of see it. I guess I can kind of enlarge it here. That'll be easier. And as you can see, so it's a mixture of characters. So you've got the old original Doom Patrol. You got Robot Man, Negative Man, and Elastigirl. And then you've got these three other characters. And every time they relaunch the Doom Patrol, this is what they seem to do. They bring back the original characters, or at least a couple of them, particularly Robot Man. Robot Man's the only one I think has been in every single iteration of Doom Patrol. And then they throw in, two or three other new characters that never stick around. They never really wind up lasting for the long haul. And the next time they reboot Doom Patrol 7, 8 years down the line, these characters will be forgotten probably. So one notable name and title missing from the announcement is, of course, the Justice League. Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths writer Joshua Williamson, who, by the way, will be writing the new Green Lantern title, has promised all year there is no Justice League and there won't be for a while. And it appears for the time being, DC is keeping that promise and building up anticipation for when its flagship title eventually returns. Okay, now we're going to move on to this next article here, which is going to cover some of the titles that are going to be debuting. Give me a second here, and we'll share again. Okay, here we go. Is this the right one? Okay, so this is going to be the one covering Lazarus Planet. And as you can see from this promotional image here, I mean, this is what I'm talking about. So you've got this new jumping on point for new readers, you say, but then the first thing you're going to do is then start jumbling all your characters up and switching them around. In this image here, we see this is Jonathan Kent, and as you can see, he becomes kind of like that 90s electric Superman. You know, he's got the Superman blue powers. And this is John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, and he kind of is transformed into some kind of, he kind of looks like Doomsday. And then Batman is wearing Dr. Fate's helmet for some reason. I don't know. So, how is this a good jumping on point for new readers? It seems to me this is just going to confuse people. Anyway, let's look at the article. During its Explore the Universe panel at New York Comic Con, DC announced its first 2023 event, Lazarus Planet. DC first teased Lazarus Planet in September when it released an image of the Lazarus volcano exploding, its green lava forming Superman's iconic symbol. The explosion will take place in Batman vs. Robin #4, the penultimate issue in the limited series. On Wednesday, the publisher released the same image with the following text added: Heroes transformed, secrets revealed, powers unleashed. Newsarama also received images showing a terrifying doomsday monster wearing Martian Manhunter's costume, and the devil Neza holding Monkey Prince by the neck of his suit while he seemingly laughs at the demon. And apparently, this devil Neza, so, you know, Ras Al Ghul's name means the demon's head. And so apparently they're sort of tying it to this demonic character named Neza. And Neza is apparently behind the Lazarus pits, behind the magic in them, or something like that. And here again, here's this Neza character confronting the Monkey Prince, which is this new DC character that has debuted in the last couple of years. And I don't know if anyone reads this character. I'd be surprised if they did. But then there's a good look at the Martian Manhunter, who's sort of morphed into Doomsday. And then there's an image of the volcano with that Superman S in it, right? Plus, Billy Batson will be released from the Rock of Eternity, where he's been trapped since the events of Titan's Academy. Lazarus Planet will seemingly establish new status quos for everyone in the DC universe, just as DC shifts into the new editorial era known as Dawn of the DCU, or Dawn of DC, which spins out of the currently ongoing event Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Mark Wade, Mark Wade will be the architect for Lazarus Planet, and he'll be teaming up with a bunch of people. Don't really care. Creative teams for the events will be announced alongside solicit text and covers for DC's January comics and its October solicitations. What we know for sure is the Lazarus Planet will see DC superheroes and supervillains transformed for the event, and everything spins out of the Lazarus volcano exploding in Batman vs. Robin #4 in December. It will spew transformative chemicals into the atmosphere, creating chaos all over the DC universe as Earth Zero Prime citizens begin to develop strange new abilities or see their current abilities altered. Promotional images give some hint as to what we can expect. Superman Blue, Batman in the helmet of Dr. Fate, Martian Manhunter turning into a monster, Monkey Prince facing the devil Neza, etc., etc. So then we show these characters, and this is before they're transformed, and then after. I'm not sure what it is with Cyborg. He doesn't look all that different. And I'm not sure who this is. I think this is Mercy, Lex Luthor's bodyguard. I think that's who that's supposed to be. Again, it's not a character everyone really cared about, but you know, she's a female, so you know they're pushing her to the forefront, whether anybody wants it or not. Here's a promotional image for Shazam, and then one for, I'm guessing this is for Titans, as we see Nightwing, Firestorm, Harley Quinn, Raven, and that's Trigon looking strangely kind of jovial. It's an odd look. And then another heroes transform, secrets revealed, powers unleashed, etc. And we see Power Girl, Batman, this Monkey Prince character, Poison Ivy, Robin, and I think we got one more here, a couple more. And then again, so Jonathan Kent, Superman's son, he's going to be transformed and basically take on the electric Superman blue powers, apparently. And again, I think this is Mercy here, and it looks like she's going to be transformed somehow, mutate in some way. I'm not really sure. And then Power Girl, I think that is again. Okay, in the announcement accompanying its Explore the Universe panel, DC presents the following questions: Can Power Girl free herself from the out of control Omen? Who are the mysterious trio claiming to be resurrected siblings of Raven? Will Dreamer's visions guide our heroes to the path of victory? Can Mercy Graves, okay, so it is Mercy, survive the transformation she's undergone? Will Martian Manhunter survive a psychic link to a Doomsday nest? So I guess that's why he's going to look like Doomsday. Can new hero City Boy hope to commune with Gotham in time to save it? How far would the question go to chase a lead across a transformed Gotham City? Will the flame of Firestorm burn out yet another horrific host? And what does DC's Monkey Prince have to do with all this? Who really cares? I mean, the Monkey Prince. According to the release, Monkey Prince joins the fray after Damian Wayne puts out a distress call for whatever heroes are left in their original heroic states to go to the Hall of Justice and help save the world. Monkey Prince answers the call alongside heroes like Blue Beetle, Power Girl, Cyborg, Batman, because of course he's unaffected, and more. But as we can see from the teaser images, not all of them will remain untransformed by the Lazarus volcano's dangerous emissions for long. DC teases, but why could the fate of all life as we know it rest in the hands of Monkey Prince? Our guess, he's somehow immune to the effects of the volcano. So, the Dawn of the DCU, it's kicking off just the way everyone was hoping it would, with a big crossover event that's going to push Monkey Prince to the front and center of the DCU, because that's what we all wanted. That's what we were all longing for. We all wanted Monkey Prince. Uh, yeah, it's look, I've back when I did a video about the Dawn of the DCU about a month or two ago, in which I said, look, this is things aren't really going to change. They're really not going to get better because they're not going to change the creative people behind this stuff. It's going to be the same hacks, and you're pretty much just going to get these same results. Let's see. Okay, let's look at this one. So DC reinvents these Superman titles for a new family-based era in 2023. Two brand new series and a reformed and a reformatted Action Comics will call back to the Superman Triangle era. In conjunction with the launch of the Dawn of the DCU and DC's next major crossover event, Lazarus Planet, the publisher has also revealed two new Superman series and format changes for its stalwart Action Comics. All of this and more will begin in 2023, following the conclusion of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths and Batman vs. Robin. At its Superman panel at New York Comic Con, DC announced that starting with Action Comics 1051 in January, the classic title will have a new format featuring three new story arcs. Each will focus on the Super family and its relationship with the world following Superman's massive fight with Lex Luthor and what DC is billing as the milestone issue 1050. And here they kind of give us a look at the sort of revamped or new Superman family going forward. And we have Superman, of course, front and center, and he's in his classic costume. He's got the trunks back and everything. He looks strangely young, considering that he's got a kid, but whatever. And then we've got Jonathan here, and of course, this look he has isn't going to last long. He's going to become Superman Blue, Supergirl. I'm not crazy about these costumes. They don't have capes, and yeah, I'm not crazy about the dark gray color, black color on him. This is the Chinese Superman. I forget his name. They introduced a Chinese Superman several years back. I think partly is a diversity thing. I think also partly just to kind of kiss China's butt and maybe get them to publish DC Comics over there. Then we've got Connor, the clone Superboy over here, and he's kind of back to his classic look. And then Natasha Irons here in the background, so she's part of the super family now. And then we've got these two, which are I just know they're supposed to be twins. I don't really know much about them. My understanding is in the War World storyline that was in Action Comics over the last year or so, maybe 2 years, when Superman was trapped on War World, he apparently found these kids there and sort of adopted them. I'm not clear. Are they? I guess they're Kryptonian kids. I don't know. But anyway, they're going to be super family too going forward. Now, according to Action Comics 1050 solicitations, Lex steals something so important from Clark Kent's life that it can alter everything. And in issue 1051, it seems these effects are being felt. DC's announcement teases the start of the House of L's transformation of Metropolis under the guidance of Steel. But what does that mean? It may have something to do with Dan Mora's cover art, which shows Connor Kent, Natasha Irons, Kong Keenan, that's the Asian Superman, traditional Clark Kent Superman, and both John Kent Superman and Supergirl wearing new costumes. It also shows two young characters whom DC calls the twins and Mora's character designs, which are seen here. And they've got some character sketches. And there you see John, and again, he's going to be taking on these electric Superman powers. Then Kara, Connor, Natasha Irons, the Asian Superman, Kong, I guess is his name, and then these twins. And again, I don't really know anything about these two characters. Also in Action Comics 1051, Lex Luthor has enlisted Metallo to undo everything Superman hopes to achieve, which is especially interesting given that Metallo equally hates Luthor and the Man of Steel. My one word mission statement for Action Comics in 2023 is super family, which seems like two words to me, not one word, but whatever. And I draw inspiration from the 100-page giant Superman family issues, says writer Philip Kennedy Johnson. And so I think he's referring to the old Superman family title that ran at DC back in the like mid to late 70s. And it was a double sized comic. They would have multiple stories in every issue. We're giving everyone in the House of L their own role and personal journey, while still keeping Superman at the forefront and tying all these super titles together in a way that's reminiscent of the Triangle era. He continues. And by Triangle era, I assume he's referring to in the 90s. There was a period, for a pretty good while, starting in the 90s, and I think may have run into the early 2000s, where the storylines in the Superman comics ran basically weekly, where you would have the story, like if you had an issue of Action Comics, then the story in that issue wouldn't continue in the next issue of Action Comics. It would then continue in whatever issue of Superman came out the next week, whether that was Superman or Man of Steel or what have you, or Adventures of Superman. And then if it continued into the following week and say Adventures of Superman, then after the week after that, it would be in Superman. And then Man of Steel after that. So basically, it was like you were publishing, in essence, one Superman comic that was coming out every week, just doing it through those four different titles. So it sounds like that's what they're going to be doing going forward now, I think. I couldn't be more excited to be part of this new era of Action Comics and doing it alongside such a consummate artist as Rafa Sandoval and comics titan Dan Jurgens truly makes it a once in a lifetime experience. Alongside this arc, Dan Jurgens and Lee Weeks will follow young John Kent on the farm with his parents as he learns about his new powers and battles Doombreaker in Lois and Clark 2 Doom Rising. And then in a three-part story written by Leah Williams and drawn by Marguerite Sauvage, Power Girl will return following the events of Lazarus Planet. As revealed on October 6th, that event will also include a tie-in special on January 17th called Lazarus Planet Assault on Krypton, and a Lazarus Planet teaser shows Power Girl consumed by green energy on top of a wrecked DC planet building. DC also teases that Power Girl is under the control of the out of control Omen, aka Lilith Clay from the Titans, whose psionic psychic powers manifest themselves as green light energy, which ties these pieces together. Power Girl will also be part of the Jeff Johns driven New Golden Age event that includes a new Justice Society of America ongoing series. So 2023 looks very busy for Kara Zor-El. And then there's some variant covers here. I guess I can shrink these down and make them easier to see. That's very much a kind of Christopher Reeve looking image there. Let's get rid of this. And Power Girl, it's a nice image of Power Girl. Another Power Girl. Don't know what that is. I guess that's Metallo, maybe. I don't know. And then Superman fighting Metallo there. Meanwhile, Superman, Son of Kal-El, written by Tom Taylor, will end with issue number 18 in December. However, Taylor will continue to write about the character in a 6-issue limited series, Adventures of Superman John Kent, which will debut in January and be drawn by Clayton Henry. And Adventures of Superman John Kent, the titular hero, will finally get to take on Ultraman, who kidnapped and tortured him on Earth 3 in 2019's Superman number 9 by Brian Michael Bendis, Ivan Reis, and Brandon Peterson. The new series will also focus on the Superman of Earth 2, Val Zod. I couldn't be more excited for John Kent to headline the new Adventures of Superman. It's a real testament to the fantastic response of fans to John as Superman. This series is going to be one of the most action-packed books I've ever written, and John is going to be tested more than ever before. Yeah, there was a fantastic response to John as Superman. So fantastic that his book is getting canceled after what, a year and a half. And of course, they're going to try and make out like it's not really being canceled. It's just transitioning to this other book, but this other book is only 6 issues long. So, it's just them trying to cover and pretend that this thing's not a flop when it is. While we can tell you the Superman of Earth 2 Val Zod and John's nemesis Ultraman will be key characters in the early part of Adventures of Superman, what we're going to reveal at the end of Superman number 2 will have everyone talking, and issue 3 launches in a direction that no one will see coming. Yeah, I'm sure. Adventures of Superman, John Kent seemingly spins out of Lazarus Planet. John is wearing an electric Superman blue suit on the main cover, which at least suggests the series picks up during or after the event itself. This does not seem to be the case for for the brand new ongoing Superman monthly series that will debut in February 2023, wherein John is seemingly still wearing his normal suit. Superman is back on Earth and Lex Luthor is in prison, but any chance Clark has at relaxing is quickly interrupted as classic and new enemies alike try to ruin his day. It's an understatement to say I'm honored to be writing DC's flagship series. I'm very excited to take Clark Kent on a fun pulp style adventure in Metropolis against his greatest villains. We're also going to be introducing new concepts and new challenges for the Man of Steel, and to be doing it with wonderful partners like Jamal Campbell and Nick Dragata is a dream come true. Every page explodes with awesome energy. The Superman line that Tom, Phillip, and I are putting together with DC is going to lead the way for an exciting 2023. And this is the cover image, and I mean, this is a pretty good looking cover, I gotta say. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next article here. Let me bring this down. Okay, give me a second here. I'll bring up the new or the next. There we go. All right. So Dawn of DC kicks off with new titles for Green Lantern, Shazam, Superboy, Doom Patrol, and more. And there's even a little Batman. Hey, surprise, surprise, they're going to do a new Batman book. And I got to say, I do love this image. This is Dan Mora. I think this is the cover of the new Shazam series. And you got Shazam sort of riding on a T Rex. And I got to say, that is cool. That is kind of fun looking. All right. So Dawn of DC is peeking over the horizon with a new publish initiative kicking off in January. And we now have some picture of how Dawn of DC will actually look with a preview of the publisher's plans for the initiative, along with the announcement of 8 new titles scheduled for launch in 2023 as part of the new line. Dawn of DC launches in January with a new coat of paint on the Superman franchise, with a quick expansion into the rest of the DC universe to follow, including the 8 newly announced titles and more still unannounced to follow. The 8 newly announced titles start off with a new era of the Doom Patrol in March, with the title Unstoppable Doom Patrol from writer Dennis Culver and artist Chris Burnham. Unstoppable Doom Patrol spins directly out of Lazarus Planet, in which the world is remade by the power of the life giving Lazarus Pit. And now they have this image of the first cover for Connor Kent's new book, and it looks like this is a mini series. But it's a Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow, which saying Superboy, Man of Tomorrow is kind of odd, but whatever. And this kind of is reminiscent. Obviously, it kind of copies his 1990s look. So they're getting him back to his classic look, sort of, to a large degree. And I mean, the image is okay. Then there are a pair of new Green Lantern titles, each focusing on different members of the Green Lantern Corps. First in April, there's Green Lantern Hal Jordan from writer Mariko Tamaki. And an artist yet to be named. Then later in the year, writer Philip Kennedy Johnson will launch Green Lantern John Stewart, also with an artist to be announced. Now, Mariko Tamaki, she's become kind of a almost a lol cow on the internet thanks to that I Am Starfire YA novel she did for Super or for DC, what, 2 years ago now, something like that, which was just like a joke. But I have to say, in her defense, she wrote when they did Future State, she wrote Dark Detective, which was basically the Future State version of Detective Comics, and it was not terrible. I mean, it wasn't particularly good either, but it was actually better than I thought it'd be. It was readable. I mean, there were some eye-rolling things here and there, but overall, it was actually kind of a decent book. And then after Future State ended, she started doing Detective Comics, the regular monthly. I bought the first few issues, and again, it wasn't awful, not so bad, but it wasn't good enough for me to continue writing it. So after about the first 3 or 4 issues, I just dropped it. So this Hal Jordan book she's going to do, it might be better than you expect, but again, I don't expect it to be very good. And again, this is kind of my whole issue is that they're not this whole relaunch and rebranding stuff. It's mostly just cosmetic. It's as I said in my video on this subject, which I did a while back, which was titled "Lipstick on a Pig." They're just splashing a new coat of paint on things, but underneath it's the same stuff. It's the same creators, and it's going to be the same kind of crap. It's I would compare it to rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic while the ship is sinking. It's like, yeah, okay, so what? That's not going to help. Anyway, speaking of Green Arrow also gets a new title from writer Joshua Williamson and artist Sean Izaksky, I don't know, in which Oliver Queen, still missing after the events of Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths, tries to reunite with his family. Also starting in April is DC round robin winner Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow, from writer Kenny Porter and artist Janoy Lindsay, in which Connor Kent ventures into space to find a place for himself. And what would a new DC line be without some Batman? In May, DC relaunches the classic title Batman Brave and the Bold, which teams Batman up with a different hero and different creators, such as Tom King, God, and Mitch Gerads, Gabriel Hardman, Dan Mora, and Rob Williams in each issue. Yeah, I'll get to Tom King in a minute. And also starting in May is Cyborg, a new ongoing spinning out of Dark Crisis with a new creative team yet to be announced. Meanwhile, starting in June, Batman Superman World's Finest creative team, Mark Waid and Dan Mora, will launch Shazam, an action comedy title starring Billy Batson hanging out on the Rock of Eternity with his tiger pal Talkie Tawny. It's Talkie Tawny, like with a W, not Talkie with an L, but whatever. Who cares? It's not like you need to get it right. What the? Okay. That same month, writer Tom King and artist Stefano Guadiano will launch The Penguin, a new Batman spinoff that brings Penguin out of retirement and into the service of the U.S. government. Ugh. And finally, the eighth title announced is Steelworks, a title pairing John Henry Irons, the original Steel, with his niece and successor in the mantle, Natasha Irons, celebrating 30 years since the introduction of Steel. So basically, she's going to be the main character, and he's going to be like the mentor character, but it's going to be mainly Natasha's book. I think that's what. Okay, a new Penguin series with Tom King. Who the hell wants this? First of all, who wanted a Penguin book? I have to think that they're doing this because after the that Batman movie last spring with Robert Pattinson, they had the Penguin in it, sort of. I mean, he's supposed to be the Penguin. Was it Colin Farrell? And Colin Farrell gave a good performance, but that character, he's really not the Penguin. I mean, they basically stripped everything that makes the Penguin distinctive away from him. So he's really just like generic gangster. And for some reason, they're hell bent on making a streaming show with this Penguin character. Um, because and apparently there may be other uh content featuring Batman's villains coming in the future because that's what everyone wants. We don't want another Batman movie. We want spin-offs about Batman's villains, apparently. And I'm sure that's why they're doing this series, but Tom King again and I just stop. What is with DC and Tom King? He's like DC's crack. I mean, they cannot quit him. And I'll try maybe and review some of the issues of that, but I don't know. My guess is I won't be able to take more than a couple of issues of this Penguin series. I tried to do that Rorschach series he did, and also that Adam Strange book, but I swear after about 3 or 4 issues in, I was just like bored to death, and just was like, "Why am I doing this? This book sucks." All right, so and this is more just promotional gibberish. So I'll go ahead and skip that. That's not important. And I'll go ahead and move on to the next article again. All right, let's see here. Now I've covered that, covered that. Oh, okay. So here's some cover images. So I'll go ahead and put that up here. Let me share screen again. Give me just a moment here. Any second now. Okay, yeah, okay, that's it. Okay, here we go. All right, so all of DC's February 2023 covers and comics revealed. So we've seen what the January stuff is going to be, or covered that. So now I'm just going to go over some of these covers for their February solicits. So first, we've got this image of Batman in the Dr. Fate helmet, and what I particularly love, or rather don't love, is he's wearing the Dr. Fate helmet, but somehow the Fate helmet has the little bat ears on it sticking up. What the hell? Why? 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 I. I. Anyway, February brings the second month of Dawn of DC, the publisher's new initiative that brings new titles with fan favorite characters to DC's line, starting in January with Action Comics. And DC's just released full February 2023 solicitations dig even deeper into what's in store for Dawn of DC and beyond. In February, the other titles of the Superman franchise will relaunch as Superman number one and Adventures of Superman, John Kent number one, tripling the amount of monthly Superman titles on offer from DC, counting the already Dawn of DCified Action Comics. Ugh, that's a cumbersome phrase. February also marks the second month of DC's Lazarus Planet event, in which portions of the DC universe are remade and twisted in new ways through the power of Ra's al Ghul's life-giving Lazarus bit, putting new spins on concepts and characters familiar to DC fans. Which again, how does that make this a good jumping on point for new readers? I just don't see it. Meanwhile, in another corner of DC's publishing line, two milestone heroes return in February in the crossover title Icon versus Hardware. While February also brings the milestone anniversary anthology one shot Milestones in History number one. And I'm not going to read all these solicitations. I'm just going to kind of run through the cover images. So, and this is so they're relaunching Superman with a new Superman number one. And I mean, that's a decent image. Uh, Let me bring these down a little bit so they fit a bit better. And Luthor in prison. And that's Superman. I guess he's fighting. Is that live wire? I think that's. I'm guessing that's Parasite. And is that? I think that's Walt Simonson. I think that's a Walt Simonson image. That's nice. How many variant covers are there for this issue? That's another thing, man. Is these variant covers have gotten completely out of control. I mean, a couple of variant covers is fine, but man, it's like, it's just it's totally gone out of control. Oh no, so that's saying Andy Kubert. Okay, so Andy Kubert. All right, well, that surprises me. Could have sworn that was Simonson. Livewire again. Okay, let's move on. So then we got Action Comics 1052. And again, these are all these sort of supporting characters: Supergirl, Superboy, Natasha Irons, etc. And I mean, that's a nice cover. Not sure what that is. John Henry and Natasha Irons. Is this by? It kind of reminds me of John Bogdanov, who did the art for Steel back in the 90s. But I mean, that's a pretty good image. Okay, so moving on. What do we got next? We got Lazarus Planet, and we got several characters that I don't recognize. I'm just going to tell you right up front. This looks like, is this? So this isn't. I'm assuming this guy with the crosshair on his face is that Deadshot, or is this a different character? I'm guessing it's a different character. And this character, I believe this is Red Canary, and this character is called Flatline, I think. Don't really know anything about her. Okay. Then next we got Lazarus Planet Dark Fate. Eh. And Lazarus Planet Omega #1. And that's another thing. You're trying to bring in new readers, so you immediately do this sprawling crossover event, which is going to require them to buy multiple, new comics. Again, if it's a new reader, they're probably going to want to kind of dip their toes in, and not and just buy a few books to try it out. But basically, what DC is doing is they're giving readers no choice except to just go whole hog and just buy like 70 dollars worth of comics in their first month or so to know what's going on. I just don't think this is wise marketing at all, but they don't talk to me. Cyborg, Dreamer, and this is that Neza character, that demonic character. Kind of reminds me of Neron, another demonic character that was introduced back in the 90s. And again, that that Batman Dr. Fate helmet with the bat ears on it. I mean, what the hell? Monkey Prince, I guess that is. And well, say hello to the new stars of the DC universe. This is this is basically it. These are going to be the main characters, probably. They're going to be the real main characters, and the characters are basically just going to be glorified cameos and stuff like that, probably. Okay. Batman versus Robin, #5. Let's take a look at these. I kind of like that image. That's the Justice League, I guess, fighting. I believe that's Felix Faust, an old Justice League enemy. Uh, okay, so this is again. I don't see how this has anything to do with the story, but this is a cover by Kelly Jones. It's not his best work, but he's a good artist. Very memorable artist from the '90s. He did a lot of great covers and work on Batman in the '90s. All right. So Batman 132. And this is a nice looking image. So you got Selina, and I guess that's Bruce's hand, and then you've got them in the reflection in the background. I mean, that's kind of cool. Okay, so this is Batman, but the first time, the first cover we get, Selina's front and center, and second title we get, Selina is front and center, and where's Batman? Geez. Oh, look, Batman on a Batman cover. Who would have guessed? And that's Casada, I believe. That's one of those covers he's doing. Batman the Joker Deadly Duo. I'm going to be reviewing issues of this. I've already done a review of the first issue just about a week or so ago, maybe a week and a half. Please do check that video out. Um, and it's got art by Mark Silvestri, who's, of course, one of the founders of Image Comics. He was a artist on the X-Men books, just like along with Jim Lee and some of the other early Image guys, and then moved over to Image. And his book was Cyberforce. That was his big Image property. And another, again, this is Batman and the Joker, but we're getting Catwoman on the cover. Okay. Riddler Year One, and apparently this is about the Riddler in the recent Batman movie. It's actually written by Paul Dano, the actor who played the Riddler, which is interesting. Cover by Bill Sienkiewicz. So, okay. And Batman won by a day. Clayface, I don't really care about this one. Nightwing 101, and this has him. I'm guessing that's Barbara Gordon, who's there with him. It's a nice cover. That's a good cover. And this has the Titans in it. I mean, that's a pretty solid cover. Poison Ivy, don't really care. Detective Comics. So we've got, that's interesting. That's a nice looking cover there. Okay. And Static Shadows of Dakota. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Milestone 30th Anniversary Special. And I do like this. Apparently, there's going to be some story in here where the modern Milestone characters wind up meeting their 90s versions in a kind of, Flash of Two Worlds or Static of Two Worlds type of story, which that's kind of interesting. And Batman Beyond is also going to appear in it, apparently. He's going to work with Static. Skipped one there. And that's a pretty cool looking cover. So Icon versus Hardware. And that's pretty good looking. That's a pretty good looking cover, I gotta say. And that is also good. Is that who drew this? I'm not sure who the artist is. It kind of looks like Cowan, maybe. I don't think it is Dennis Cowan, but it looks very similar to him. Huh. That's interesting. Shazam: Fury of the Gods. So I guess this is going to be an adaptation of the movie versions of these characters. Yeah, and that's nice. That's a nice kind of manga looking cover. Okay, I don't care about that one. Swamp Thing, Batman, another Batman book, Batman versus Spawn. So they're doing this collected edition where it's gonna have the old Batman Spawn crossovers from the 90s, the DC and Marvel one. There were two of them. And then the new one that they're doing, which I believe is coming out in December. And they're going to be collected into one edition. Sandman, more Sandman. Don't really care much about that. Deceased, DC vs. Vampires, Task Force Z, Flash, Batman movie adaptation. Point. And I'm guessing, of course, they're doing this collected edition again. It's this sort of box set of Flashpoint and the Batman 1989 movie adaptation and this collection of other Flash stories because this, I'm sure, was supposed to coincide or come out roughly around the time the Flash movie was going to come out. But of course, that thing's been delayed and pushed back so many times. I guess they thought it was going to be coming out, I don't know, beginning of next year or something, and then it got pushed back again. What a mess. Then Wiz Comics. So this is a copy of Wiz Comics #2, which is the first appearance of Captain Marvel, or Shazam as he's also known. And I like these facsimile editions. They're nice. Batman, the Dune that came to Gotham. This is kind of a Elseworld story that is a kind of Batman fighting a kind of Lovecraftian menace. I'd like to get that. Batman Who Laughs. Don't really care about. I'm sick of the Batman Who Laughs. Batgirls, whatever. Can we get beyond Batman books? Can we get beyond Batman books? Let's just skip ahead. Enough of Batman. Black Adam, Beetle, Catwoman. Well, I've already seen plenty of Catwoman in the back Batman solicits. She's on half the damn covers, so don't need to look at those. Let's see. DC Horror presents Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead, written by Bruce Campbell. That's interesting. Another comic being written by an actor. But this Gary Frank cover is really nice. That looks really good. And they got a couple more variant covers here. Yeah. Uh, Green Lantern, GCPD, Gotham City, Harley Quinn. I don't really care about that. And Batman, Justice Society of America. Huh, no variant covers for that. Monkey Prince number 11. uh, I would love to know how many people are buying Monkey Prince. Punchline, Scooby Doo, Stargirl, The Lost Children, Batman, Space Age, blah, blah, blah. Batman and Scooby Doo. The Flash. Okay, so The Flash, what do we got here? A couple of decent covers there. Oh, wait, The Flash, number 193. So is this. So they got two Flashes. So is Flash. Okay, well, so we got another Flash with Jake Garrick and Wally, and I'm guessing that's Jesse Quick behind them. And they got this one by Scott Collins. That's the artist, Jay Garrick, and the other Wally West. And then Fighting Professor Zoom. Yeah, okay, those are fine. Human Target by Tom King. I haven't read this, don't plan to. Joker, Sandman, Tim Drake Robin. Ugh. Titans United, Blood Pact. Okay, I like that cover. It's a pretty cool cover, gotta say. Kind of a cool cover too, although Connor looks strangely kind of roided out there. It's pretty good. Is that what's that guy? Art Germ? I think that's an Art Germ cover. Wildcats. Okay, so is this a Wildcats book or just a Grifter book? Ugh. Wonder Woman. Okay, yeah, that's good looking cover. I'll give it that. So is that. Okay. Batman. Okay. So I think now they're into trade paperbacks, I think. So we'll stop there. And I'll go ahead and switch to another article here. Give me just a second. Okay, so after that, I wanted to talk a little bit. Oh, well, first, let me talk about the new Golden Age. So DC has brought back Jeff Johns, and they're going to be doing some new material for, I think, for Earth 2. And this is going to involve the Justice Society and other Golden Age characters. Bring that up. Okay, here we go. So DC's Who's Who returns with new Golden Age entries for Aquaman, Red Lantern, and more. DC Comics has released a brand new Who's Who focusing on the 13 Golden Age characters previously teased at the end of Flashpoint Beyond number 6. So apparently there were several. We're going to find out that there were several Golden Age DC characters that were sort of erased from time or pulled out of time and therefore were forgotten. And they're going to be reinstated. And some of these are actual Golden Age characters, like the Golden Age Aquaman, who you see here. But then some of them, like this Red Lantern character, are completely new. DC has released a brand new Who's Who starring the 13 Golden Age characters teased at the end of Flashpoint Beyond number 6. And the Who's Who focuses on the 13 characters Rip Hunter says have been pulled back into history and that time is rebuilding around them at the end of Flashpoint Beyond number 6. These characters include the Golden Age Aquaman, Quiz Kid, Legionnaire, the Harlequin Son, Judy Garrick, Betsy Ross, Molly Pitcher, Ladybug, Salem the Witch Girl, Cherry Bomb, John Henry Jr., and the Golden Age Red Lantern. Now, with the release of the new Golden Age from writer Jeff Johns, these characters have been created with artwork by Jerry Ordway, John Cleese, Todd Knock, Matt Hearns, Brandon Peterson, Scott Collins. DC said of the Who's Who, each new entry introduces or reintroduces characters from DC's library and details their personal data story, history, and powers and weapons for fans. And so here you see some of the images for these characters. And they're done in the style of the old DC Who's Who books that came out in the 80s. So it gives them a nice classic look. And I mean, some of these characters, like the Golden Age Aquaman, is an interesting exception. You know, they're characters, they're actual Golden Age characters that are being sort of reinstated. But some of these characters, most of them are basically new characters that never really existed in the Golden Age and are being brought back. And they're being introduced. A lot of them are basically young female characters who are being introduced as sidekicks to Golden Age heroes. And it's a way to, add more, diversity to the Golden Age characters, more female and more non-Caucasian characters. It's fine. Uh, let's just kind of go through them. So you've got the Golden Age Aquaman here. Now, originally, of course, this character was Arthur Curry, and then in the Silver Age, his origin was revamped, and he became the Aquaman we kind of know. The one that's uh, born the son of an Atlantean woman and a human man. Basically, they kind of in the Silver Age they kind of cribbed Namor's secret origin and used it for Aquaman because at that time Marvel wasn't publishing superheroes. But the original Golden Age Aquaman, the version was his father was this scientist who found these underground ruins, which were Atlantis, presumably, and then he found some scrolls that allowed him to make this serum. I think it was, or was it the scrolls themselves? I don't remember, but he was able to give his son aquatic powers, and so that's the character they're reinstating here. Now, obviously, if he is Arthur Curry, that would not make a lot of sense because Arthur Curry is already the modern Aquaman. So I believe in this, it said that if it's too small and fuzzy to see here, but in the entry for him, it says his full name is unknown, but he uses the alias Adam Waterman. So my guess is he's going to turn out to not be Adam or Arthur Curry, but be a different person. And then we've got these two sidekicks here. Again, two young female sidekicks for I think for Miss America. Then Cherry Bomb, and this is a young black woman who's being introduced as a sidekick to the Human Bomb, I believe. John Henry Jr., who's being introduced as a sidekick to John Henry, who is John Henry Irons from the present day DC universe, who goes back in time at some point and becomes a vigilante in the 50s. And then Ladybug, she's a sidekick, young female sidekick for Red B of all people. Legionnaire. Now this one is interesting. They don't release any information on him, but apparently this is a member of the Legion of Superheroes who is going to go back in time and wind up in the 40s, I guess. And then Mr. Miracle. So this is the original Mr. Miracle, Thaddeus Brown. Now, in the original comics that introduced the Mr. Miracle character, after Scott Free escapes from Apocalypse and comes to Earth, he meets this guy who is an escape artist, a kind of Houdini style escape artist whose stage name is Mr. Miracle, Thaddeus Brown. And he's the one who taught Scott Free how to escape from traps and stuff. And, and that's what this character is. So they're going to sort of retcon the original Mr. Miracle. Instead of being just a performer, a stage performer, he was also actually a crime fighter. And then Quiz Kid, who's going to be a sidekick for the Golden Age Mr. Terrific. Now, this one is interesting. The Golden Age Red Lantern. Now, the Red Lantern, obviously, there was no Golden Age Red Lantern, but they're introducing, and apparently, this guy is a Russian. He's going to be a Russian character. And apparently his power doesn't have any connection to kind of like the Golden Age Green Lantern. His powers don't originate from the same source as the modern Red Lanterns do. He's come from a different place. Then Salem the Witch Girl, who I think is going to be, she's kind of like a female version of Clarion the Witch Boy. And I believe she's going to be a sidekick for Dr. Fate. As if Dr. Fate needed a sidekick. I don't think he does, but they didn't ask me. The Boom, who is Judy Garrick, who is Jay Garrick's daughter, so a young female sidekick for her. And then the Harlequin son, who is the son of Harlequin, the Golden Age Harlequin. And it's unknown who his father is. Now, the Golden Age Harlequin eventually married Alan Scott, and they had two children, Jade and Obsidian, who became superheroes starting in the 80s. So I'm assuming that he is not the father of this character, that this character's father is someone else. And of course, that's all before they decided Alan Scott was gay. So it's going to be interesting. So, New Golden Age #1 is a new one-shot released on November 8th by DC. The synopsis reads, from the Justice Society of America to the Legion of Superheroes, the New Golden Age will unlock DC's epic and secret-ridden history of heroism, launching a new group of titles set firmly in the DC universe. From the 1940s to the 3040s, heroes take on the great evils of their time, but in the aftermath of Flashpoint Beyond, those heroes and villains will have their lives turned upside down. DC's future and its past will never be the same again. But how are Mime and Marionette connected to this? Why are Rip Hunter and the Time Masters the most unlikable heroes in the DC universe? And who or what is nostalgia? Don't miss the start of the strangest mystery to have ever plagued the DC universe. And this is written by Jeff Johns with art by Steve Leiber, Jerry Ordway, and I'm not going to say that other guy's name. I don't know. So I may have to pick this up and review it because this actually does look kind of interesting and kind of promising. All right. Now we're going to change subjects. We're going to move away from the comics and we're going to move over and talk about the DC films for a minute. Let me bring that article up. Okay. Here we go. All right. So if you can see this, DC Studios has begun mapping its new 10-year plan, confirms James Gunn. Now, I was hoping this article would give some details, but it doesn't. It basically just says what the headline says, that James Gunn and Peter Safran, who are running DC Studios now, they're collaborating with a bunch of writers and some other creators to sort of create a roadmap for the DCU going forward, kind of MCU style. What's going to happen for the next decade. And they don't really give any details. I was hoping I could talk about that, but they don't. So I'll just take a minute to talk about kind of what I think might be happening. Now, James Gunn talked about who the main characters are going to be in the DCU, the five pillars of the DCU, as he called them. And he named the characters Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Harley Quinn. Not the Flash. Notice, not the Flash. And I mean, for the most part, it makes sense. I mean, if I were mapping it out, I would say Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and probably Green Lantern. And maybe I'd throw in Aquaman too, but those would be my choices. But so I think the Flash and Green Lantern are conspicuous in their absence from that list. And Harley Quinn, I mean, Harley Quinn, I like Harley Quinn okay, but I think that character is just way overdone, has been run into the ground, and I'm kind of tired of her. So I'd be happy if they took a break from Harley for a while, but apparently that's not going to be the plan. Anyway, so what are they going to do with these characters? Don't really know. So my guess is, at a guess, we're going to get a Superman Man of Steel 2, probably. And that's another thing. Another character that's a couple other characters that are conspicuous in their absence, and that is Shazam and Black Adam, because it seems like what what Dwayne Johnson had in mind was basically making The Rock like the Iron Man of the new DCU, where he'd be kind of this keystone character. And David Zaslav and James Gunn and new folks that come in have basically said, nah, not so much. So I do think we're going to get a Black Adam 2 probably. And I'm guessing that that will have Superman in it, and maybe we'll get a Black Adam Superman fight. Maybe, I don't know. Um, but yeah, so a Man of Steel 2 at the least, and Black Adam 2 for him. Now for Batman, there are rumors that, well, obviously in the near term, Ben Affleck's Batman is going to be appearing in Aquaman 2. And supposedly, maybe he's going to be appearing in Flash 2 as well, or in the Flash movie as well. Keep hearing different things. But on top of that, there are rumors that he has signed a new deal. I assume that he's going to be allowed to do the Batman films that he was originally going to do after Justice League, but that were basically derailed and canceled after Justice League flopped and Zack Snyder was fired and all that. So figure a couple, maybe a trilogy of Batman films from him. As for Aquaman, I mean, beyond Aquaman 2, presumably there will be an Aquaman 3. Beyond that, can't really say. The Flash, who the hell knows? This movie has been delayed and pushed back and had reshoots so many times. Who knows what the hell we're going to get? I have heard that after this movie, Ezra Miller is going to be replaced with another actor, George McKay, who I think is going to become the Flash. Who knows if there will be a sequel? I'd be surprised if there is, to be honest. And then she's not in this image. I think this maybe is her here, but Wonder Woman. Obviously, I think there's going to be a Wonder Woman 3. Beyond that, don't know. Now, what's interesting is so far there hasn't been any mention of another Justice League film, and you would think that they would be leading to another Justice League film somewhere down the line. Beyond that, I can only guess. Then there's Shazam, the next Shazam movie, obviously coming out. I think that's the next DCU movie that's going to come out. It was supposed to be out in November, I believe, but again, it had reshoots and got pushed back again. So I really enjoyed the first Shazam movie. It didn't do well, but I really liked it, and I'm hoping this next one will be good, but we'll see. After that, I don't know. Now, at the end of the first Shazam movie, they teased Mr. Mind and Dr. Savannah working together in a sequel. And that's the sequel I'd like to see. Hopefully, if they do a Shazam 3, that's what the plot will be. But instead, they've pivoted and they're doing this storyline with these two goddesses who are going to be fighting them because, uh, we got to put women at the forefront of everything now. And see what else is there. I mean, beyond that, then there's Harley Quinn. What are they going to do with her? Another Suicide Squad movie? It seems hard to believe they'll do another one because the first one didn't do that great, and the second one by Gunn was an outright flop. So I would think if they do another one, they're not going to do Suicide Squad. They'll just give her her own movie. Um, Again, maybe they could do another Birds of Prey, but that Birds of Prey movie was a flop too. So I don't know. So it's going to be interesting to see when they start announcing stuff and what their plan going forward is, what's it's going to look like. I mean, what about Green Lantern? What role is the Green Lantern Corps going to play in this? Are they ever going to get around to doing a Green Lantern movie again? And we'll see. And also, I think part of this is they're going to start doing streaming shows, kind of like the MCU does, where they do streaming shows that are set in that universe. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with those. Now, that's most of the articles I wanted to cover here. Uh, so I'm going to stop sharing that. And the final thing I'm going to go through here, and this is just kind of a fun thing. And let me close some of these tabs because I've got a lot of them here. Okay. And this is just a fun website that I stumbled across years ago that I think is just, if you're a comic book fan, this is a lot of fun. And where is it there? So, and the blog itself, the address is bravenboldlost.blogspot.com if you want to check it out. But what I like about it is he does this series of posts called Super Team Family The Lost Issues, the greatest comic book team ups that never happened but should have. And this guy basically, and I'm assuming he uses Photoshop or something similar, and he basically creates these mashed up fictional covers for stories that were never really published. And again, if you're a comic book fan, these are just a lot of fun. And I'm just going to go through them. I'm going to do like it's basically 1 month worth of these. He started doing these about in 2010. And here you've got Brave and the Bold, Batman, and Airwave. Airwave's a character. I've never understood why DC doesn't do more with this character. Back in the late 70s, the original Airwave was a Golden Age character. Then in the late 70s, they introduced his son, who sort of took up the mantle. And he had a backup story in Action Comics for a while. And I really liked this character, and I never understood why they didn't do more with him. Because after that Action Comics backup story, they never really did much with him. For instance, I thought for years they should put him in the Teen Titans because he was a teenage character. Why not put him there? But they never did. But anyway, they've got him here with Batman. And then the next one we got here, Batman and Alpha Flight. And and again, and this is taken from Alpha Flight, from the original Alpha Flight series by John Byrne. I believe it was issue number 4, where one of the characters, Marina, who was an aquatic character, was kind of here in the background, and she was sort of transforming, going through this alien transformation. And he's obviously taken her out and photoshopped in Batman. That's kind of fun. Batman and Ambush Bug. Then Batman and Ant-Man, and it's Ant-Man and the Wasp, actually. And this Wasp image here, this is from Avengers number, I think it's around like 201 or 202, where they were fighting Ultron, and she's in the foreground, and Ultron was like over here, and she was zapping him. Obviously, she took that character, or he took her out and photoshopped her into this cover. And this Ant-Man, I think this is a Bob Layton Ant-Man, so probably from those early stories where the Scott Lang Ant-Man was first introduced. Then Batman and or excuse me, Batman Beyond, or Batman, I guess. Batman takes a trip into the unbelievable as Batman Beyond comes from the far future to our time on a murderous mission. Batman and Big Barda. Big Barda is generally, I think, kind of two words. It's kind of crammed together here. Batman and Black Orchid. And I actually have this issue. This cover is an actual issue of Brave and the Bold, but it isn't Black Orchid. It was Batman and Jonah Hex, actually, where Batman goes back in time to the Civil War era. And in the original cover, it's Jonah Hex who's up here jumping down to save Batman. See, then Batman and Black Panther. And that looks like an old Kirby Black Panther image there. Batman and Blue Beetle. Then this one, Batman and Brother Voodoo. It's an interesting cover. And that Batman, I forget what cover this is from, but this is, I believe he's fighting Cobra in an issue of, it might have been Brave and the Bold or another Batman comic, and he obviously photoshopped that in here. Batman and Captain America. Okay, so this is a fun one. So this is, I think, pretty much a Captain America cover here, because the original cover it had Batman here, but then Zemo, I think Zemo was closer. He was kind of like where Batman is, and basically he's sealing Captain America up in this dungeon, and this monster is about to eat him, and he's sort of photoshopped Batman in here. Batman and Captain Britain. So this is another cover that I'm familiar with. This cover with Captain Britain is from an issue of Marvel Team Up with Spider-Man, and in the original cover, Spider-Man is here, and he and Captain Britain are fighting each other. I remember that issue pretty well because it's the first time I saw Captain Britain. It was my introduction to that character, and again, he sort of photoshopped Batman in here and took Spider-Man out. Batman and Captain Carrot. I gotta say, as most of these covers go, this one is not. It's kind of weak. I mean, it's not particularly creative. It just feels like an odd fit. It's not one of the better ones. He just sort of slapped Captain Carrot in there. Now here's a weird one. And again, these aren't necessarily all crossovers that involve other comic characters or DC characters or Marvel characters. He starts pulling in characters from movies and TV and whatnot. And here we have Batman and Captain Kirk. Kind of hard to imagine how that would work. Batman and Captain Marvel Jr. And they're fighting the Fadeaway Man here. And I'm guessing, I don't know this cover, but I'm guessing this is an issue of Brave and the Bold. And whoever the other character was photoshopped out, and then he put in Captain Marvel Jr. to replace him. Batman and Challengers of the Unknown. Batman and Cloak and Dagger. And this is from the Death in the Family issue where Jason Todd died. I'm not sure where the Cloak and Dagger images come from. I'm not familiar with them. But this is actually a pairing I think that would work really well and make a lot of sense because Cloak and Dagger are street level heroes. And I think them working with Batman would actually be pretty cool and work pretty well. Batman and Conan. Again, this is kind of like how would this one happen? Who can survive the awesome power of the Dragon God? I don't know. This looks like a squid, not a dragon to me, but what do I know? Batman and Cyborg, and it looks like this is a Brave and the Bold cover that has Cyborg. This is a George Perez Cyborg image that's photoshopped in. Batman and Daredevil. And again, I'm guessing that there was a different hero here, and he was photoshopped out and replaced with Daredevil. Don't love that image of Daredevil, him being kind of cowering. It's not great, but oh well. Batman and Atari Force. So Atari Force is a DC property, but they're not really part of the DC universe. Atari Force was a series that was published briefly back in the early 80s. Uh, and I think basically, this is when the Atari game system was popular. And I guess someone at DC was like, my kids love Atari. They love that Atari. Let's make a comic book with Atari. And so they made Atari Force. And the thing is, the Atari Force was actually a good book. It was written by, I believe, by Jerry Conway with good art by Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. Had an excellent cast of characters. It was kind of, a Farscape kind of like story, but years before, like 20 years before Farscape, though. And it's a property I'd love to see DC revive, and I think would make like a great movie or something, or a streaming show or whatever. But it's so obscure, I'm pretty sure there's zero chance of that happening. Batman and Deadpool. Uh, yeah, that would be an interesting pairing. I'm sure Deadpool would drive Batman up the wall. But then again, with the Joker, he's kind of used to it, right? Batman and Death. Again, it's not the most inventive cover, but it works. Okay, so Batman and Deathlock. This is nice. Now, this cover here, this is a cover to an issue of Captain America. And in the original cover, it's Captain America who's up in this crosshairs, not Batman. So obviously, he just photoshopped that out and put this image of Batman in there instead. But it works really well. And Batman and Deathlock that would be a pretty cool crossover. Batman and Devil Dinosaur. Again, that's kind of a fanciful crossover. How would that one work? Batman and Dial H for Hero. So this is another DC property, and those who don't know, Dial H for Hero is a property. It's gotten revived occasionally over the years. It's never really had, I think, a big following. But I think what basically the idea with Dial H for Hero is there was this device that looked like a dial, surprise, surprise, and it was presumably magic. It was never really fully explained. Basically, when you dialed HERO on this dial, it would turn you into you would get superpowers. It basically turn you into a random superhero. And like I say, it's been revived a number of times over the years. I think it's a concept that's got a lot of potential, but it's never really had much of a following. Batman versus Doctor Doom. Batman and Doctor Midnight and the Atom. It's an interesting one. Dr. Midnight and the Atom both being Justice Society characters. Dr. Midnight's a character I really think DC ought to do more with. I think he's a very interesting character. He's the original blind superhero long before Daredevil came along. Batman and Doctor Strange. That would be a pretty cool crossover, I think. This is a Paul Smith image of Strange here. Batman versus Elektra. Now this would be cool. Batman and Elektra. And I think again, this is an issue of Brave and the Bold, and I forget who was here originally, but basically this image of Elektra, this is from I believe it's from the issue where Elektra originally was killed. I think it was a Daredevil 181 or 180, something like that. And in the original cover, she's fighting Bullseye, and you've got an image of Daredevil in the background, sort of looking on. And obviously, the guy took that out of the Daredevil cover and photoshopped it in here. It looks really good. This is actually a crossover I'd really like to see. Batman and Galactus. Well, and the way they write Batman, I think we all know Galactus would have absolutely no chance. Batman and Ghost Rider, that could be cool. An interesting crossover. Batman, Batman and Godzilla. That would be interesting. Of course, Godzilla was published as a comic by Marvel for a while back in the late 70s, very briefly. Only ran about maybe 2 years. Batman in Concrete. And Concrete is a character. I think it was originally published in Dark Horse. This was back in the 90s. The character had kind of a run of popularity, never hugely popular, and I didn't really read a lot of his stuff, to be honest. Um, so I think that's interesting. Okay, and I think we'll go ahead and stop there with that. I think that's enough for one stream. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. And that'll go ahead and wrap up this stream. It's been going for an hour and a half, so I'll stop now. For those who are watching afterwards, thanks for watching the stream. Thanks for tuning in. And I'll probably, hopefully, be streaming more regularly going forward. Hopefully, streaming, I think maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays and maybe Saturdays around this time, maybe somewhere around 6 p.m., 7 p.m., something like that. And thanks for watching.